The obvious controversy that everyone's been talking about is did Florida State get screwed up? Did they get screwed over? The answer is a resounding absolutely yes. But I'm going to tell you why I believe that even though they did get screwed over, why they didn't make it. The first point that I think of is, well, SEC football versus ACC football. Let's stack the conferences together and let's be honest. The SEC finished with 6 teams in the top 25 when it came to the final playoff rankings. The ACC had Florida State and Notre Dame. Duke was ranked for a little while during the season, but eventually they fell off. Clemson fell off. Who was really the real competition all season long for Florida State in the ACC, other than maybe Notre Dame? The next component I think of is look at the quality wins they had. What was Florida State's best win? We talk about LSU at the beginning of the season. Okay. You talk about, the ACC championship. They beat Louisville. Okay. Alabama's best win is against the 2-time defending national champions in Georgia. 29 game winning streak. They just ended that in the SEC championship. A lot of things had to happen for Alabama to get to this point. Like, they weren't a lock going into this playoff. I mean, the popular demand is that, okay, it's Alabama. We can't leave them out of the playoff. Well, that's incorrect because last season we just saw it. Alabama was left out of the college football playoff in favor of one TCU. Now, I'm an Alabama football fan, as you guys have gotten to know, and some people will come here and say that my opinion is very biased. I'm here to tell you I'm putting all bias aside right now. I'm just going to give you what happened. The college football committee did not want to have another TCU going on with the playoffs. And to be honest, yes, it's unfair to Florida State. But when you lose your starting quarterback in Jordan Travis, who has been the star of your team, and who, quite frankly, if he had still been healthy, will put Florida State in position to go for a national championship. I think they would stack up very well with the top 4. But Florida State, in the end, just was not the same team without him. We saw evidence of that in the last 2 games that they played. They barely beat Florida, who was at that time was a subpar team, was not anywhere close to being a quality win. Same thing can be said about Louisville, even though it was the ACC championship. Louisville just lost to Kentucky, who was even worse than they were, worse than Florida. So, I don't. And again, the backup quarterback got concussed, couldn't play in the ACC championship. All right, fine. I'll give you that one. But if your third string quarterback's in, he's only going to be but so good. People are trying to make the arguments that they still have really good receivers, they have a great defense and all that. And yeah, Florida State does have a very good defense. They've shown that as well. But we got to stop with thinking that college sports is the same as what we've known. It's not about who the most deserving teams are. It's not about that anymore. It's about who are the 4 teams that make the most compelling matchups, bring in the most ratings, and bring in the most viewers. And you tell me with a straight face that you think that Michigan versus a Florida State team without their starting quarterback, looking the way that they have the last 2 games, was going to be a match for the number 1 team in the country? Or do we have would you rather go with a situation where we have Michigan going against Nick Saban and Alabama? What matchup brings in more ratings? Jim Harbaugh, most scrutinized college coach the past 2 years, versus Nick Saban, 6-7-time national champion, Alabama, the history and all that behind that matchup, the history behind Alabama football, coming from where they came from. Yes, they lost to Texas. Texas beat them pretty good. But think about all that happened leading up to that. A lot of things had to happen for Alabama to get to the top 4. We can start with the rankings. I mean, look at this. We got Georgia was at number 1, Michigan 2, Washington 3, Florida State was at 4. Oregon was at number 5. Ohio State at number 6 couldn't play because they lost to Michigan. They didn't play in the Big Ten championship. And then at 7 was Texas. So let's look at what happened. We'll count it down. Texas won the Big 12 tournament. Won the Big 12 championship at number 7. They got in. Oregon lost. They were at number 6. They lost to Washington. Oregon moves down, Alabama has a chance to move up. Texas moves up in light of that. Carrying on. Washington wins. They either stay where they are or they move up. Same thing with Michigan. They just beat Iowa, so they have a chance to move up or move down. Georgia lost to Alabama. They were the number 1 team. So naturally, they're going to slide. Hence, Michigan slid to 1, Washington slid to 2. Texas somehow jumped to number 3, which I think makes sense. They got the head-to-head against Alabama. They deserve it. They deserve to be in. Here's where I'm trying to confirm that I'm not biased about it. Georgia is still one of the best teams by far in college football in the top 4. So if they had slid to number 4 and left Alabama out of it at number 5 or something like that, I can't really be mad at that. Alabama should have never had a shot to even get in the playoff, but a lot of things happened. The Auburn game, Iron Bowl, 4th down and 31. What happens? All Auburn has to do is get a stop on 4th down and 31. They didn't do it. Milroe makes the play to Isaiah Bond in the corner of the end zone. The rest is history. But it wasn't over yet. They had to go into the SEC championship and take out Georgia, who's been dominating and decimating teams for the past 2 or 3 years. It seemed like nobody could really stop them. And early on in that SEC championship game that we were all watching, it looked like Georgia had a chance to pull away from this like pretty quickly because they drove right down the field on their first drive like it was nothing, scored a touchdown. It seemed like Bama wasn't going to have an answer for it. But you got to give them some credit. I mean, they came back and they had an answer for them and they won the game. A game that a lot of people didn't think they'd win. They just thought Georgia was flat out a better team and they were going to get absolutely boat raced by them. So this ain't about, in my opinion, bias but it came down to this with Florida State. Again, what I'm about to say is not fair. What I'm about to say is going to piss off a lot of people, but it's the truth. No one wants a repeat of last year with TCU. Florida State, unfortunately, without Jordan Travis, looks like another TCU. There's a reason that Florida State, they're in the Orange Bowl with Georgia. Why do you think Georgia is a 2-touchdown favorite right now? They're a 14-point favorite right now against Florida State. There's a reason for that, man. You got to think about that. There's a reason why they're a 14-point favorite. That tells me all I need to know. Now, if Florida State comes out and they play well, dare I say, beat Georgia badly, all right, we got a different conversation we need to have. But I sincerely doubt that happens. Just like myself and a lot of people in the country, a lot of people who were probably on the committee making those decisions probably have the same doubt that I have that Florida State is just not going to compete well without Jordan Travis at quarterback. They're just not. Who's going to create the best matchup? Because Alabama won at the time that they won, beating Georgia, along with the other teams that won, Washington, Texas, Michigan. All of these teams winning at the same time moved the rankings accordingly, along with Florida State. Although they won, they did not look impressive. We hear all this talk about eye test. So you watch Florida State, watch how they played, and tell me with a straight face that they are indeed one of the top 4 teams in college football. To me, I just didn't see that. Not without their starting quarterback. They're a totally different team. It's not the same. It's just like it's so unfortunate that this is how the system is made. There's 5 Power 5 conferences out there. Only 4 spots. And they were all taken by Power 5 conferences. Somebody is going to get left out. But when it came down to it, SEC champion versus the ACC champion, the SEC won. Because look at the opponent. It wasn't Alabama versus, Ole Miss or, maybe even like Mississippi State or something like that. This was Georgia. It's the 2-time defending national champions. 29-game winning streak. Versus a Florida State playing against Louisville, who just lost to Kentucky. Unfortunately, that doesn't hold as much weight as the SEC championship, and that's all I'm saying about this. So the committee, I think, in my opinion, got this right. A lot of people are going to hate it. People probably hate me because I love me some Alabama football. It is what it is. I'm not saying that Florida State didn't get screwed. They absolutely did get screwed. But the committee got it right from the standpoint of who are the best four teams for this playoff. Could you make an argument still for Georgia? Absolutely. I have no arguments against that. If they wanted to put Georgia in over Alabama, I got no issues with it. They still one of the top four teams in the country, in my opinion. Even though Alabama just beat them in the SEC championship, I wouldn't have had an issue with it. I promise. But we gotta stop a few things. One, we gotta stop with the fake outrage. We gotta stop with most deserving team. It ain't about that no more. Not with the playoff. It's about ratings and what brings in viewers. Nick Saban versus Jim Harbaugh, that brings in viewers right there. And Stephen A. earlier today made a great point. What if Florida State had Deion Sanders as their head coach and they went undefeated, even though they looked the way that they did? You telling me that a college football playoff wouldn't want primetime Deion Sanders coaching against Jim Harbaugh? Come on, man. That's a done deal. It's a done deal right there. If someone's going to take out Saban and leave him out, that's the matchup right there between two big-time coaches, one scrutinized, one becoming a rising star. College sports is a business now. It's not about all this Disney, about the team and everything. You know, all this Disney stuff we talking about. They were so deserving. Why can't you just go in? Alabama's the bad guy. No, it's not about that. It's about, hey, these are the best four teams. This is the best matchup we can put out there. It's going to make us some money. It's going to get us some ratings. We saw what happened last year with TCU. That was the deserving team. The underdog that everybody wanted to cheer for. They never had a chance. I know they squeaked by Michigan last year, but they never had a chance against Georgia. Everyone knew it. Everyone knew it. It was one of the worst national championships any one of us has ever seen. It was so lopsided, such a beatdown. It was like the committee looked at this and said, man, we can't have this again. It's killing our market. We can't have that again. So I'm sorry to Florida State. I know it sucks. I know they probably pissed off like crazy down there in Tallahassee. And we saw what the coach had to say. We saw what the ACC president had to say. Although that was kind of funny what he had to say. Yo, it don't matter. This is the best matchup they can put together. If y'all mad, go cheer for Michigan beating Alabama. If y'all mad, go cheer for Texas to beat Alabama. Because I think Texas is probably going to beat Washington. And I'm right now I'm calling for a rematch between Bama and Texas for the national championship.